Listen carefully. Most people spend their entire lives chained by invisible ropes made of opinions, validation, and approval. They waste their time worrying about who likes them, who doesn't, who said what, who's watching them, who's judging them. That's weakness. That's slavery. The truth is, nobody actually cares about you as much as you think. Everyone is busy with their own failures, their own insecurities, their own problems. Yet here you are, handing over your peace of mind to people who don't even matter. You destroy your confidence because you care too much. That has to stop. You want success, you want strength, you want freedom. Then stop giving a fuck about noise. Care only about results. Care only about progress. Care about becoming the man or woman you were born to be. Focus on what truly matters. Most people live their lives in constant distraction. They wake up, check their phones, scroll endlessly, worry about the news, worry about gossip, and give their mental energy to things that have no bearing on their actual lives. This is what destroys focus. They give importance to opinions, events, and emotions that don't move them forward an inch. When you stop giving a fuck, you are not becoming careless. You are becoming selective. Selective with your energy, selective with your time, selective with your attention. Life is short. The truth is the amount of energy you have is limited. Every single day you get a set number of hours, and within those hours you only have so much mental bandwidth. If you waste it on things that don't matter, you starve the things that do. Focusing on what truly matters means drawing a line between what is urgent in the moment and what is important for your long-term success. Most people get dragged by urgency. They answer every notification, every message, every call. They respond to negativity. They argue. They defend themselves. They try to please. But very few stop and ask, does this actually matter in the long run? Will this still matter a year from now? Will this move me closer to my goals? If the answer is no, then it doesn't deserve your attention. Think about how much of your life has been wasted stressing over temporary emotions or comments from people who barely know you. You gave them energy that could have been invested in your growth, in your health, in your business, in your craft. To focus on what matters, you need clarity. And clarity doesn't just happen. You have to build it. You build it by asking yourself daily what your priorities are. What do you want to achieve in the next 5 years? What skills do you need to master? What habits will make you stronger, wealthier, healthier? These are the things that matter. These are the things you must center your energy around. Everything else is background noise. Most people will never find clarity because they're too distracted. They try to care about everything. So in the end, they achieve nothing. The world is designed to steal your focus. Social media is built on distraction. News outlets profit from your anxiety. Companies profit from your impulses. People around you, especially those who are not chasing greatness, will try to drag you back in their comfort zone. If you don't filter what gets your attention, the world will decide for you, and it will drown you in nonsense. That's why the discipline of focus is rare. That's why winners rise above the rest. They simply stop wasting time on what didn't matter. Focusing on what matters also requires sacrifice. You cannot do everything. You cannot please everyone. You cannot chase 10 goals at once. You must learn to say no, not only to people, but also to your own impulses. No to endless entertainment, no to gossip, no to pointless arguments, no to habits that drain your strength. The more you cut away, the clearer your vision becomes. Think of focus like a laser. A laser is powerful because its energy is concentrated in one direction. Your life must be the same. Concentration turns potential into power. When you truly focus on what matters, you gain peace. Peace doesn't come from doing nothing or escaping responsibilities. Peace comes from alignment. When your actions align with your goals, when your daily habits align with your future vision, you feel grounded. You stop being pulled in 100 directions because you know exactly why you are doing what you are doing. Even when challenges appear, even when people criticize, you don't shake because you know your purpose. People who lack purpose are the ones who get lost in comparison, jealousy, and fear. People who know what matters keep moving no matter what. The greatest regret most people have at the end of their lives is not that they failed, but that they wasted time. They cared too much about the wrong things and too little about the right ones. They chased approval instead of building strength. They argued instead of creating. They worried instead of acting. Regret is born from misplaced focus. Every time you give energy to something that doesn't truly matter, you are borrowing from your future self. You are stealing from the person you could have become. There's a mental freedom that comes with focus. When you stop giving a fuck about noise, you no longer feel the pressure to keep up with everyone. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself. You stop comparing your journey with others. You realize that half of the stress people carry is not from real problems, but from fake priorities. They chase validation from strangers online. They stress about trends. They argue about topics that change every week. Meanwhile, their health declines. Their goals remain untouched. Their dreams fade. The man or woman who focuses is immune to this trap. They know what their life is about, and they keep their eyes on that vision like a soldier on mission. Focus is not easy because it requires discipline. Discipline means doing what matters even when you don't feel like it. Discipline means training when you're tired, working when you're uninspired, learning when you're distracted. Most people give up at the first sign of discomfort. That's why their lives remain average. But those who refuse to let feelings dictate their focus end up building extraordinary lives. The discipline to stay locked in on what matters creates consistency, and consistency creates results. If you want to transform your life, the most powerful step you can take is to strip away everything that doesn't align with your vision. Ask yourself daily, is this worth my time? Is this moving me forward? If not, cut it. Protect your energy like it's gold, because it is. Your energy, your time, your attention, these are the currencies of life. Spend them wisely and you'll live with power. Waste them carelessly and you'll live with regret. This is what it means to stop giving a fuck and to focus only on what truly matters. It's not carelessness, it's precision. It's the ability to ignore distractions, cut away nonsense, and build a life where every action counts. It's the art of living intentionally instead of reactively. It's the difference between those who leave a legacy and those who are forgotten. Self-discipline over approval, Most people live their lives as prisoners to approval. They act, speak, dress, and even dream based on what they think others will accept. It begins in childhood when every action is measured by parents, teachers, and peers. You are praised when you fit in. You are criticized when you stand out. Slowly, without realizing it, people learn to attach their self-worth to the opinions of others. They crave likes, compliments as in validation. The problem with this is simple. When you live for approval, you can never truly be free. You will always be performing, always adjusting, always compromising. You will never reach your highest potential because the path of approval and the path of greatness rarely run in the same direction. Self-discipline, on the other hand, is the opposite of approval. Self-discipline means you do what is necessary regardless of whether people clap for you or not. It means you set a standard for yourself that is higher than the standard others place on you. It is not glamorous. It doesn't always get attention, but it builds real strength. Imagine two people, one who wakes up every day because he wants praise for being hardworking, and another who wakes up every day because he refuses to betray his own goals. The first will crumble when applause fades. The second will remain steady because his drive comes from within. Self-discipline creates unshakable momentum because it is rooted in commitment, not in feelings. The truth is, approval is addictive. Humans are wired to seek it because it feels good. It gives a temporary high when someone tells you you're doing great or when your efforts are recognized. But like any drug, it wears off quickly and you are left chasing more. That's why people waste hours on social media, not to create or grow, but simply be seen. They are chasing approval. But here's the reality. Nobody cares as much as you think they do. Everyone is too consumed with their own life, their own problems, their own insecurities. The applause is shallow and it fades quickly. Self-discipline, however, gives you something permanent. It gives you real results, and results speak louder than opinions. When you start prioritizing discipline over approval, you build independence. You no longer need anyone to validate your efforts. You no longer beg for recognition because your recognition comes from progress. You begin to see your life as your own responsibility, not something to be dictated by the crowd. The crowd wants comfort. The crowd wants safety. The crowd fears failure. If you follow their approval, you will inherit their mediocrity. If you follow discipline, you will inherit freedom. Discipline forces you to do what others want. That is why it delivers results others can't imagine. Consider the person who goes to the gym every day. At first, maybe people notice and compliment, but after a while, no one cares anymore. If that person was going just for approval, they will quit the moment the attention stops. But the one who goes out of discipline doesn't care if nobody notices. He knows why he is there. He is building strength, not for likes, not for validation, but because it is non-negotiable. And when the years pass, he is the one who stands with power while the others fade into excuses. This applies not only to fitness, but to business, learning, relationships, and every area of life. Approval is temporary. Discipline is eternal. The path of discipline is not easy. It demands sacrifice. You will have to work when no one is watching. You will have to stay consistent when no one is encouraging. You will have to say no when everyone else says yes. You will miss out on comfort, on distractions, on fitting in. That's the price. But the reward is far greater. Approval gives you a moment of satisfaction. Discipline gives you a lifetime of strength. Approval fades in seconds. Discipline compounds forever. The greatest danger of living for approval is that it makes you fragile. The moment people disapprove, you collapse. The moment you face rejection, you stop. The moment your actions are mocked, you retreat. This is weakness, and weakness will never carry you through the struggles of life. On the other hand, self-discipline makes you resilient. You keep moving even when the world doubts you. You keep building even when no one believes in you. You don't need them. You need only your own commitment. That's real power. History is full of examples of people who were laughed at, doubted, even hated while they worked towards something great. If they had cared about approval, they would have quit early. But they didn't. They chose discipline. They chose to put their heads down and do the work day after day, even when nobody clapped. And in the end, the same world that mocked them had no choice but to respect them. Respect comes not from seeking approval, but from proving through action. Another truth is that approval can blind you. When people praise you too much, you become comfortable, start believing you've arrived, so you stop pushing yourself. Discipline protects you from that trap. Discipline tells you that no matter how far you've come, there is more to do, more to build, more to master. It keeps you hungry. It keeps you sharp. It doesn't let you slow down just because others are impressed. Approval wants you to settle. Discipline demands you to rise higher. When you build your life on discipline, you also gain respect, the kind of respect that lasts. Approval is cheap because it's given freely. People will cheer you today and criticize you tomorrow. But respect is earned. Respect comes when people see that you are consistent, reliable, and unstoppable. They may not like you, but they cannot ignore you. They may not agree with you, but they cannot deny you. That is the product of self-discipline. Approval wants to be liked. Discipline wants to be undeniable. Living for approval keeps you on the surface. You are always chasing the next compliment, the next recognition, the next acknowledgement. It's shallow. Discipline takes you deep. It forces you to dig into yourself, to build real habits, to confront your weaknesses, to do the things nobody else wants to do. And as you keep showing up day after day, you separate yourself from the crowd. The crowd waits for permission. You don't. The crowd waits to be told they're good enough. You prove it to yourself every day through your discipline. In the end, the choice is simple. You can either live for approval and remain controlled by others, or you can live by discipline and control yourself. One path makes you a follower. The other makes you a leader. One path makes you fragile. The other makes you resilient. One path gives you temporary satisfaction. The other gives you permanent strength. Approval is cheap. Discipline is priceless. Approval is borrowed. Discipline is owned. If you want to rise above, stop begging to be liked and start training yourself to be unstoppable. Freedom through detachment. Freedom through detachment is one of the most powerful lessons a person can ever learn. because most of the suffering people go through doesn't come from what actually happens to them, but from how tightly they cling to things they can't control. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you become cold. It does not mean you have no emotions. Detachment means you understand the difference between what belongs to you and what doesn't. It means you stop enslaving yourself to outcomes, people, and situations that are beyond your control. Real freedom begins when you stop giving your inner peace away to things outside of you. Think about how much human anxiety comes from attachment. People attach their happiness to money, so when money fluctuates, their emotions fluctuate with it. They attach their self-worth to relationships, so when people leave, they collapse. They attach their identity to their job, their status, their possessions, their social image, so when any of those things shift, they lose themselves. That is not strength, that is dependency. Detachment is the opposite. Detachment means you can enjoy money without letting it own you. You can love people without letting them define you. You can pursue success without letting it chain your peace. When you are detached, you are still fully present, but you are no longer a slave. Most people believe control comes from holding on tighter. In reality, control comes from letting go of what you were never meant to hold. The more you cling, the more fragile you become because everything external can be taken away. The more detached you are, the freer you become because your sense of self, your discipline, your values, and your peace are not negotiable. Nobody can take them. Detachment builds an unshakable foundation. It means no matter what changes outside, you remain grounded inside. Detachment is not laziness. Some confuse the two. Laziness is an excuse to not try. Detachment is the ability to try with full effort, to give everything you have, but to remain calm whether you succeed or fail. You don't get destroyed by loss and you don't get arrogant with success. You keep working, you keep growing because your mission isn't dependent on applause or outcomes. The detached person fights harder because they are not afraid of losing. They are free. The attached person hesitates, fears failure, fears judgment because they have tied their worth to results. That is why detachment creates power. It removes fear. Look at relationships. People destroy themselves by clinging too hard. They fear being alone, so they tolerate disrespect. They fear rejection, so they pretend to be someone they're not. They attach their value to how much someone loves them, so they beg, chase, and suffer. This is weakness. Detachment changes everything. When you are detached, you can love deeply, but you are not destroyed if someone leaves. You know your worth is not in their hands. You know love is real only when it is freely given, not when it is begged for. Detachment gives you dignity. It gives you boundaries. It gives you strength. You stop being desperate and you start being selective. The same principle applies to success. Many people attach themselves to their goals in such a way that they become miserable during the process. They obsess over results. They measure themselves every hour. They panic when things don't happen quickly. That attachment creates frustration and burnout. Detachment means you still pursue success with everything you have, but you don't allow yourself to be destroyed by the pace of progress. You work hard. You stay consistent. You don't measure your worth by instant results. You are free to adapt, free to pivot, free to keep moving forward without being consumed by anxiety. Ironically, the detached person often achieves more because their mind is calmer, their decisions are clearer, and they are not paralyzed by fear of failure. Detachment also builds resilience. Life will always bring loss, pain, and change. If you are attached, every change breaks you. If you are detached, every change teaches you. You don't resist reality, you adjust to it. You don't waste time crying over what you cannot control. You focus on what you control. Detachment turns pain into wisdom. It allows you to stand in the middle of chaos and still remain centered. People master detachment are not destroyed by storms. They become the calm within them. Another benefit of detachment is clarity. When you are attached, your judgment is clouded. You stay in toxic situations because you fear losing them. You chase short-term pleasures because you are attached to comfort. You make emotional decisions that keep you stuck. But when you detach, your vision sharpens. You start to see what really matters, what is real versus what is illusion. You start to realize that most of the things you thought were necessary for your happiness were never necessary at all. This clarity frees you from chasing illusions and allows you to build a life based on truth. Freedom through detachment also means freedom from people's opinions. Most people are chained by what others think. They post online to be validated. They change their lifestyle. They silence themselves to be liked. This is attachment to approval. But when you detach, you stop caring whether people cheer or boo. You stop needing recognition. You become dangerous in the best way because no one can manipulate you through criticism. You live by your standards, not by theirs. That's real freedom. Detachment requires strength because the human mind naturally clings. It clings to comfort, to routine, to people, to identity. That's why I must be trained. You train detachment by practicing letting go daily. You let go of small annoyances instead of dwelling on them. You let go of negative comments instead of replaying them. You let go of expectations and focus on actions. Over time, you develop the muscle of detachment and you realize that most of the things you once obsessed over never really mattered. That realization is liberating. The essence of detachment is this: nothing outside you should own you. You can own possession, but they should not own you. You can have relationships, but they should not define your worth. You can pursue success, but it should not dictate your peace. You are complete with or without those things because your strength comes from within. When you live this way, you are untouchable. People cannot manipulate you. Failure cannot break you. Success cannot intoxicate you. You remain steady, grounded, and free. Detachment is not about walking away from life. It is about walking into it without chains. It is about engaging fully, loving deeply, working relentlessly, but doing so from a place of strength rather than fear. That is where true freedom lies. That is why the greatest warriors, thinkers, and leaders in history mastered detachment. They were not controlled by desire. They were not controlled by fear. They were not controlled by others. They were free because they understood the simple truth, the less you cling, the more you control, the more you detach, the more you lie. Conclusion, at the end of the day, everything comes down to this. Stop giving your energy away to the noise. Stop begging for approval, and stop chaining your peace to things you cannot control. Focus only on what truly matters. Stay disciplined no matter who's watching, and detach yourself from the traps of fear, judgment, and attachment. That is how you build strength. That is how you build freedom. That is how you build a life that cannot be shaken. The world will always try to pull you in 100 directions, but the choice is yours. Either you waste your time pleasing everyone and worrying about everything, or you rise above, lock in on your mission, and build the life you know you're capable of. Power, respect, and peace are earned only by those who choose the harder path, the path of focus, discipline, and detachment. So carry this with you. You don't need approval, you don't need permission, and you don't need to chase validation. You only need your own commitment. Stay sharp, stay consistent, and stay free. Good luck on your journey. Thank you for listening. And remember, your future is in your hands.